Okay, so you've done some disputing. You've tried to work on your credit. You've tried to get some of those items off. You've disputed them. They came back with some crazy stuff like no, what did they say? Meets Fair Credit Reporting Act requirements. They didn't do anything. Or if you asked for investigation, you never heard anything back. Or you've just sent letter after letter and not really getting any results. It might help you to understand exactly how the credit bureaus process requests and some workarounds for that once you understand the system. And it might be a dude named Oscar, as in E-Oscar. So let me help you understand E-Oscar and overcome its limitations. So stay tuned for this. All right. So basically, what is E-Oscar? E-Oscar, which Oscar stands for Online Solution and for Complete and Accurate Reporting, is an automated tool that's used by the credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, as well as Innovis, which is the fourth bureau that a lot of people don't know about. So E-Oscar is designed to manage the high volume of consumer credit disputes that the credit bureaus receive every day. They probably receive tens, if not hundreds of thousands of disputes every day, right? And so it's a system that handles all of that. So when we send dispute letters in, the system will take our dispute letter and translate the complaint into a 3-digit code and then assign it to whoever the creditor is, the relevant bureau, the creditor that reported the information, and then it's going to ask them to verify the information through the ACDV form. That's the form that they use. Everything is boiled down to a form. ACDV stands for Automated Consumer Credit Dispute Verification. Yeah, I know. It's two C's. It's two C words, but there's only one C in the acronym. So, what's the point here? There's two key points, actually. First of all, understand the dispute process. When we send them a dispute letter, when they receive that letter, the dispute letter is scanned and assigned a dispute code. Then secondly, the furnisher, that's the creditor, they will investigate the matter that was listed on the code, and then they send back their findings to the bureau. Now, if the furnisher fails to respond to the bureau within 30 to 45 days, the disputed item is removed by the bureau. Should be pretty straightforward, right? They take the letter, turn it into a code, send the code to the creditor. Creditor does their investigation, and then they answer back. And if they don't answer back, the bureau says, we removed it. But there's also a challenge to using E-Oscar, because the system relies so heavily on the creditor themselves, and so that the bureau may only the creditor may only conduct a minimum investigation and then just shoot back to the form back to the credit bureau and says, yeah, it's what we said. So there's nothing there that makes them own up to the process of the investigation or the method, because there's a request called verification of method where we call them out and say, you said you investigated this. How exactly did you do that? What information did you look at to verify this? Give us a copy of it, right? But you got to be careful, because if you try to submit disputes too fast within a window, they may receive multiple requests at the same time, and then they say, oh, these are duplicates, this is frivolous submissions. And so you got to be careful to make sure you submit the letters within those time, in the allotted time. I know it's frustrating when you're trying to hurry up and fix your credit, but we rush the process through efficient order, not through sending out 20 different things unnecessarily. So that's E-Oscar. But let's talk about strengthening our disputes using legal case law. So basically, when we talk about, there's certain cases out there that when those cases got decided, they created new rules in the Fair Credit Reporting Act that give us the rights that we have today. And so some recent cases have emphasized the responsibility of credit bureaus to perform independent investigations and not rely solely on the creditors. Here's a couple that you might want to reference in your letters. When I can say might, you will want to reference in your letters to help strengthen your dispute case. First one being Cushman versus TransUnion. Now, the key takeaway in this case was that credit bureaus are legally required to conduct independent investigations and not simply rely on the creditor's response. So how do you use that? What you want to do is you want to include a clause in your dispute letters that reference this case and to demand that they do an independent investigation. So you're being straight up. You're saying we demand that you do an independent investigation and not just go by what the creditor tells you. For example, I'm going to give you this example clause. So you write this down, put this in your letters. And it says, pursuant to Cushman versus TransUnion, credit bureaus are required to perform independent investigations of disputed items. I request that you provide documentation demonstrating the steps taken to investigate this dispute independently. 0 point blank. You put that in your letter, that'll strengthen your letter big time. The next case is Henson versus Santander. Now, the key takeaway from this one was this case clarified that the debt purchasers are not considered debt collectors under the FDCPA, making it essential to carefully identify the parties responsible for the debt. So if it's a third-party collection agency and the only thing they did was buy the debt from your original creditor or secondary creditor, they don't get the same treatment as a debt collector. They are just a purchaser. So what does that mean? How do you use that? What you want to do is include this reference when you're disputing debts that were sold to third-party collection agencies and ensure that the correct entity is reporting. So if this third-party collection agency that you never had any interaction with, their only involvement is that they bought the debt from somebody else, they can't have that on your credit report because they are third party, they are purchaser, they are not an actual collection agency. But you want to be clear, because sometimes you have some companies out there that they purchase debt and so they own the debt and then they transfer it to they have a subdivision that is an actual collection company, and those are the people that are reaching out. So as a customer to them, as you being somebody that's part of their portfolio, and the actual collection agent's subsidiary is the one that's reporting to you, that's the loophole that they use to get around it. But just make sure you got it straight that because like, for example, you got a company called Resurgent Capital. Resurgent Capital buys debt from other companies. They buy it. And then Resurgent Capital will hire its subdivision LVNV to do the actual collection efforts. So they are acting as a collection agency for the purchaser. That's how they get around this provision, is a loophole. But as long as if you're receiving debt from the collection agency or correspondence, collection efforts from the agency and not the purchaser, then just be clear on that. But if it's the purchaser and that's the company that's reporting, that's how you get it off your credit report. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about Taylor versus Experian. The key takeaway on this one is to understand that this case highlighted that credit bureaus must delete disputed information if they cannot verify it within the required time frame indicated by the FCRA and the FDCPA. So how do you use that? Basically, what you want to do is reference this case and use this to enforce removal if the credit report fails to provide a timely response to your investigation of verification and validation, or you them reaching out to the creditors for investigation. Next, we're going to talk about Metro 2 compliance letters. And this is more of an advanced technique. I'm not going to go deep into it, but you can certainly get your help with that one. So, what exactly is a Metro 2 compliance letter? Understand first that Metro 2 is the standard format used by creditors and furnishers to report the information to the actual credit bureaus. So what you're doing is, and it's in a certain format, and that way, therefore, these codes are used here as well, the formatting, so it's recognized and encoded in the system. So, a Metro 2 compliance letter is one that you write where you challenge any of your credit entries based on the formatting rules and the compliance requirements within the Metro 2 system. So, what does that mean? You're saying that if a creditor is sending in information without being Metro 2 compliant, we don't know if that information is inaccurate because it's being decoded wrong. And most likely it is. So, why use Metro 2 compliance letters to help dispute? Because number one, a Metro 2 compliance letter and resolution of that issue can help with data compliance issues. And here's the thing, many creditors out there don't follow the strict rules of Metro 2 reporting. And that often leads to inaccuracies, because if the credit bureaus are looking for information to come in that Metro 2 format and it's coming in some other way, things tend to be misinterpreted or misaligned, leading to inaccuracies, especially when you see some of the crazy stuff on there where it just don't make sense. Secondly, by challenging the creditor's reporting rather than just simply generally disputing the debt, you can demand that the creditor prove Metro 2 compliance. So you have to go back and make them prove that when they submitted this information, it's in the Metro 2 format. The credit bureau will go back and say, hey, they'll look at it and say, are you sure this is in Metro 2? Because consumer says it's not making sense. And then they're going to force them to go follow Metro 2 compliance, which may cause them to say, oh, we recoded this wrong, we reported this wrong, and now we can fix it. And that may lead to cleaning up a lot of inaccuracies just by cleaning up and getting it in the right format. And then lastly, you'll have some leverage, because to be truthful, the credit bureaus are often unprepared to deal with any disputes related to Metro 2 formatting. And so with that being the case, a lot of times they just wipe it off and say, oh, problem solved. But it's highly effective in getting stuff off the credit report when you hit them with the Metro 2 compliance request, and then they don't really often want to go through that, so they'll just wipe it away just to make it, that's an easier resolution for them. So, how do you use a Metro 2 letter? First of all, you want to identify potential errors in the reporting. And you can do that via the credit report by looking for inconsistencies in the payment history, account statuses, or balances, especially across the various bureaus. If the same account reports differently in 3 different places, that's usually a sure indicator that they're not use the Metro 2 formatting. So then, of course, if that's the case, you want to draft a letter. In that letter, you want to make sure you state that the disputed item is non-compliant with Metro 2 standards and must be removed if the creditor cannot prove that it is in compliance, right? And that's a very clear provision that you can use. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you send your letters via certified mail. You've already heard me say that several times. It's a broken record, but I cannot stress enough how this goes a long way towards helping you, and in the long term, when you can track that mail and it's less opportunity for them to say it got lost, we didn't hear anything back. Because with certified mail, if they don't receive it, it gets sent back to you, and that way you'll know that they refuse to sign for it, and that's helps you. That's evidence in your case of non-compliance. So let me give you some example language real quick in regarding Metro 2. So, and I suggest that you put this in your letter as follows. This dispute concerns the reporting account number, you put that in, which is non-compliant with the Metro 2 standard, which is required for accurate credit reporting. I request that you investigate this matter and provide proof of compliance. If compliance cannot be verified, I demand that the immediate removal of this item from my credit report. Strong language, right? You put that in your credit and in your letter, your dispute letter, and the chances of effectiveness have gone up probably times 10. So, what are best practices for sending disputes through eOscar? Right? So when we're sending it through, this is some tricks of the trade to get things through, especially if you want to get it in front of a live person and not through the electronic system or past it. Avoid using the same template letters, right? Now I know templates are great, you got the meat of it in there, but there's a risk when you're using generic template letters. It is better that you customize your disputes each time you contact the Bureau so that you avoid them being flagged as frivolous, because eOscar recognizes it. And if you're using a generic template and 100 other people, 1,000 other people, 10,000 other people are using the same generic letters, you run the risk of that, especially when you have a common name, because it starts to think you're the same as the other Robert Johnson who disputed a Capital One collection or something like that. So be careful there. You want to provide detailed documentation. I've said that many times. Make sure you include copies of the credit report, any proof of payments made in the past, or any other supporting documents that will help strengthen your case. So if you say, hey, this was settled in court, you provide a copy of that court ruling that says this was settled, and they can't come back to the well and try to come back at you again with it. So you want to provide that documentation rather than tell them investigate and go out and find it. If you got it, or if you can get it faster, send it in, and then that makes you, when your letter is received with that documentation, it makes your request more open and shut than for consideration. Next, you want to make sure, if you want to really try to get your case in front of a live person, you can use handwritten notes versus letters instead of typing it, and you can vary the font formats and the fonts, things like that, to try to confuse eOscar, and then it'll shift it over to manual review. Now I can't. It sounds good in theory, but I'm not really sure. I haven't seen anything that definitively says this is an effective strategy, but it can't hurt to try it, especially if your goal is to get it in front of a live person. I also recommend that you send your letters to multiple addresses. So if you got more than one address for Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, send it to the main one, send it to any additional ones, because if anything, one of those alternate addresses may end up routing it to a live person, if that's your goal. So by sending these identical disputes, it will increase your chances of success by forcing a manual review and a person saying, yes, I see what they're saying, delete. And then of course you want to monitor your response time, so you got to keep track. So when you send a letter, you want to keep track and make sure you make a note that 30 to 45 days, start with 30 days later, where you want to see if anything's happened. You want to look at your most recent credit report. After that, after 30 days, the next one, to see if it reflects that being removed or modified in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Right? So now I've given you some verbiage here and how to draft a letter, how to create a letter, to confuse and get past eOscar, as well as using Metro 2 compliance format as a way to dispute if you think that's the source of inaccuracies on items on your credit report. Now, doing this all manually is fully capable, it's doable, but what if I tell you that I have an AI powered platform that will help you do all of this for you, and then you can print what you can do is you upload your credit report. It will read all your disputes, all your negative item accounts. It will help point out what you need to dispute. It will ask you, generally speaking, what type of dispute are you going to do, and then it will create a custom letter for you using AI, and then that way you don't have to worry about being flagged for frivolous suits. If you want to try to use the confusion of mixing up fonts and things like that, you can do that as well. Now, of course, the handwritten, you would have to do it as handwritten, and print that letter out and then write it in hand by hand on notebook paper or something. Then send that in if your goal is to get it in front of a live person for a manual review. But other than that, the system is designed to help you with that dispute process and generate the custom letters for you based on you and your credit report situation. And then you can print those letters out, stuff envelopes yourself and buy postage, or you can use the service that goes with it for an additional fee, and they can generate the letters and send them out for you if you want to do that. But that's an option for you. But basically, understand this: the eOscar system plays a vital role in handling customer disputes, but its limitations can present the challenges that we discussed. And so by you understanding how the system works and using these advanced techniques, like the Metro 2 compliance letter challenge, well, let me put it this way. By understanding that and doing that, this will help improve your chances of success. So, and also too, by citing those case laws that I discussed in your letters and using that verbiage, it will provide stronger leverage in holding the credit bureaus and creditors accountable, because partly it lets them know that you know and understand what your rights are and what the law compels them to do. So by citing that, there's less chance that they're going to give you the runaround. So in summary, you want to make sure that you want to customize your dispute letters and provide supporting documents to avoid being marked as frivolous. You want to use recent case law to demand independent investigations and hold the credit bureaus accountable for what they're reporting. You want to leverage Metro 2 compliance letters as an emerging technique to challenge inaccurate reporting. And that's, last couple of years, Metro 2 has grown in possibility and use and grown in popularity as a technique. People are getting results with it. And then lastly, you want to make sure you send your disputes via certified mail and monitor your responses and the response times, the feedback carefully to ensure that they are in compliance and that you're getting the thing done that you want. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm trying to keep them shorter, but still give you guys that value that you're come to expect. So, I would ask that if you like this video, that you would like it. I would ask that if you think you know someone who could benefit from it, feel free to share the video with them by clicking share down there. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Now, if you're interested in that free credit repair AI-powered software platform, I recommend that you reach out to me through any of the links below. You can go to my website. You can request a free credit analysis. and then that will register you, and I can provide you access to the website. If you purchase any of my products, I can grant you access through them, including the courses, the ebooks, or if you register for a newsletter, you can also do that, and I can provide you access there, and then you can go on from there. For right now, it's I'm making it available to as many people that want it, because I want to help you guys with your credit, and this gives you a strong case and a strong set of tools to help you with that. But again, if you like this video, please comment. If you don't like it, please comment. Tell me what I can do better. Tell me anything you want me to talk about, as well as to let me know if I can help you with anything. And so until the next time, take care, family.